So, Acharya-ji, I want to know how Vedas describe the beginning of time. Uh, I mean, I know you've mentioned that time started when particles got excited. Otherwise, it was all still. There's nothing moving. So that's the beginning of time. But इसको थोड़ा elaborate करके.
Okay, very good question. You know, in our Vedic Sandhya, we have 3 months in the Sandhya is divided into 3 parts basically. So in the first 1/3 part, it ends with Rigved 3 mantras. That is, last Rigved Sukt is called a Sanghatan Sukt. And just before last but one, these are 3 mantras that kind of give a summary of philosophy of whole universe, how it came into existence. So there are 3 ones which most of people associated with Arya Samaj are quite aware of. Om Etancha Satyancha Vidya Tapaso Adhyajayata Tato Ratyajayata Tatah Samudro Arnava. This is number one. Then Samudra Dharnava Dadi Samvatsaro Vajayata. Samvatsar is time now. Aho Ratrani Vidadhad Vishwasya Mishato Vashi. This is about time, as if time was created, so to say. T equal to 0, onset of time. And next one is about space. Surya Chandra Masao Dhata Yatha Purvam Kalpayat Divancha Prithvincha Antarikshamatho Swa. So the third one is describing that the sun and the earth and in between space. So, this is spatial bodies and space was created. So time and space are two important parameters. So very first mantra is saying Rit and Satya. Sat is the visible world, and Rit is all its underlying ground rules and principles. If something is there are certain hidden principles, like Earth is moving around the sun, and Earth is spinning around its axis. So we see that in the morning, sun is rising, and all these events taking place. But such things are happening because there are certain underlying principles, namely the gravitational force that causes the sun to rotate around the earth to rotate around the sun. So Rit means the underlying principles, and Satya means the visible world, which is not illusion, it is a real world. And this is made out of Iddha and Abhidha Tapasu Adhyaya. Iddha is the knowledge part, and Tapas is action. Like man made things, knowledge and action of a carpenter, that gives rise to a wooden chair, wooden desk, etc. But in case of Paramatma, the knowledge is called as Iddha because he doesn't learn from others. This is within him. And his action is also called tapas. For a carpenter, he has to use, he and the wood are, there is a distance between them, and he has to use certain tools and apply it on the wood. But for Ishwar, he is everywhere, so he doesn't need a tool. He can excite a particle being within, because he is within that thing. So this first mantra is just trying to say that before the onset of creation, he had his knowledge and he had its capability, and he made the ground rules, and accordingly this whole world has been making. Then second one is saying Samudra Arnavat. Arnav means the ocean of that, we cannot say particles. At that time, it is homogeneous ocean of matter, so to say. So that is called Arnav. So Arnav is also a popular name in India for boys. So Arnav is a homogeneous ocean, and Samudra is definitely ocean. So Samudrat Arnavat. So that ocean is there, which is homogeneous. Now, if something is very homogeneous, there is no such a Cartesian coordinate or any coordinate system, because and there has to be a reference point, what we call in graph paper, we have to have an origin of, where three axes are going to meet. So there has to be a reference point, and with reference to that point, we can talk what is where and so on and so forth. Now that point has to be different from that whole ocean, is it not? That's why it is a reference point. So at that point, he does something, that supreme conscious being, he does something that that material thing, which we cannot call a particle, but it becomes something else. So whenever there is a transformation, there is a movement, there is a motion, something is happening. And when something happens, then only the time parameter is relevant. If everything is stagnant, then there is nothing like time. Just like when we are in deep, dreamless sleep, you know, which is kind of a timelessness, not in the whole world, but for that particular person who is in sleep, because he gets to know the events of the world through his mind. And when his mind is, you know, thoroughly still and blank, nothing is happening. Insofar as he is concerned, there is no time parameter is not there. So if nothing is happening, time is not, there is nothing like parameter of time doesn't exist. So at the very first, he has to make a reference point, and that reference point has to be different from the entire infinite ocean of matter. So whichever way, whatever he might have done to make that small point, or maybe multiplicity of those points, that will require some movement, and that is the birth of the time, you know. So Samudradanavadati Samvatsaro Ajayata. Now time has been created because something was made to move. And once something is made to move, the time parameter has come into existence. And then he says, Aho Yatyani Vidadhat Vishwasya. Vishwa is entire world, and ahoratrani, that time gives rise to day and night. So as a layperson, I say time is visible because of the contrast of the day and night. So ahoratrani vidadad vishwasya mishato vashi. Mishra means is movement, you know, like where when our eyelid close, that is called nimesh. So, that is also called palak jhapakna, pal, that takes very small moment of time. And vashi is सब उसके वश में है. All these movements are in, he is exercising his authority. So nothing is out of his rules and regulations. So he is fully, बोलचाल में हम बोलते हैं ना, उसके बिना पत्ता भी नहीं हिलता. So that sort of a thing. Nothing, there is absolutely no movement in this universe which is not caused by him. So he is the final authority. Even the air is moving because of pressure difference, or water flows, or whatever, or even in the molecular motions, movements, and anything we can think of, he is applying that force, and that force is not visible, but that force causes the movement, and that is what is visible. Some of them we can see, some we cannot see, like at subatomic levels, electrons are moving, we cannot see it. But whatever it is, the very motion, movement is giving rise to the time. So second mantra is talking about time, and this is the origin of the time. And once the time has come into play, the universe has a, particularly our solar system, has a lifespan of 4.32 billion years. So that becomes effective. And once the very first set of particles have been made to move, Now he makes the earth and the sun and stars and galaxies and all those things that are described in the third month.